Hey everybody, it's Max. Welcome into Inside LAFC podcast. Yes, changing things up here a little bit. Kellen Acosta will be joining me here shortly to look back at an incredible evening there at the Rose Bowl, 82,000 strong coming out. We'll also recap the defeat to the LA Galaxy and look forward to these 3 games before LAFC can take a big exhale here in the middle of the season. Did want to mention something about my friend Vince LaRosa, who was tremendous over the years working on this project, a big part that we've been able to get it here and make it something that you guys can tune in every week, and we'll continue to provide that service. But I want to say a special thanks to Vince, sending him all the best as we look forward to this next rebirth of the podcast. We'll be joined by Kellen Acosta. We'll talk about LAFC's performance as well, look forward as well, and how do you manage all of this? We remind you to rate, review, download, subscribe, tell a friend to check out Inside LAFC podcast, which starts right now. Here we go. It's Inside LAFC podcast. Kellen Acosta joining us here. And Katia, we're going to be talking about the Rose Bowl. We're going to be talking about LAFC's defeat to the LA Galaxy and also what lies ahead. But we're here at the LAFC Performance Center, beautiful Eastern Los Angeles. Sade was playing in there, and then you mentioned the song Smooth Operator, which the guys were training to, getting their exercise here at the gym right next to us. And now that song is in my head.
The song's in my head, and it will be in my head for the rest of the day probably.
Great.
I don't know if now I should just blast it in my car.
Are you familiar with Sade?
I am not.
Okay. Well, you're going to learn that now, that you're going to be here with me, that I'm an old soul, and I'm an even older soul with my musical taste. So, but I'm glad we were able to flesh this out a little bit. But Sade, I would say listen to the music, but watch the videos. They'll take you back to a time in the 80s where music was a little different.
Were you about to say better?
It wasn't better, but you knew the song. What is your favorite decade for music? Do you have one?
Ooh, good question. I don't know if I have one. Maybe the 2000s.
It's a tough question.
The 2000s, because I was a kid, and then pop music, boy bands, all of that really made an impact. So I'd say whenever I get to hear those songs again, they really make me happy.
Yeah, is there a go-to boy band for you?
Backstreet Boys.
Backstreet Boys, who, by the way, are in a commercial. Have you seen this one? They're still making money. The Backstreet Boys are still raking it in. So congratulations. I just wish I was a Backstreet Boy.
They still have tours.
Still have tours.
Money.
I don't think I was going to be any boy band. I was a Menudo guy.
Súbete a mi moto. Súbete a mi moto.
Menudo in the news a lot for all the wrong reasons.
This episode now is name the song, and then we'll start singing.
Cambiará las pilas. Cambiará las pilas.
Not
Change
that
the batteries.
we're great singers, but we try.
Yes, we are. We're also here. We're going to talk about the LAFC game against the Galaxy. Disappointing result. LAFC battling back to lose it. We'll get into all the details. But the Rose Bowl was a big part about this game, Katia. This was supposed to be at the beginning of the season. You could say coulda, shoulda, woulda. What would have happened if that game was played back in February? It got shoehorned in here, which you thought would take a little bit away from the rivalry because you didn't have time to build it up. But what made it different was the Rose Bowl. And anyone who lives in Los Angeles knows it. That is a special place. And then a record MLS attendance, which will be there. I mean, it might be broken sooner than later. The old record was broken in just a couple years. So I didn't know what it was going to look like, but immediately when you saw it, I was in Orlando doing the game, so I tuned in. I was on my laptop watching it in, but you were there. From my perspective, it popped off the screen. It felt like there was more than 80,000 people, to be frank, and that's hard to do there. And to see that it raised the standard of the Galaxy supporters. We know the high standard that the 3252 and LAFC supporters have. It's always big when these two teams play, but the Rose Bowl made it really special.
Magical place, historic venue, and it was just so special to see how much this rivalry has grown and what it means now for MLS. Just seeing a packed Rose Bowl stadium, and I'd say it was half LA Galaxy fans, half LAFC fans, and you can see the old white jerseys on one side, the old black jerseys on the other side, but just everybody chanting, being so into the game. Since the early hours, they knew that there was going to be a lot of traffic. There usually is when you're going to the Rose Bowl.
Getting in? You got there early.
I got there super early, so
still traffic is gnarly.
Yeah, and traffic had already started when I got there around 4:30 that the stadium was opening. So I was there.
You got to get there
way ahead of time.
11 a.m. You didn't get there that early.
No, not that early. Around 4:30 p.m., 3 hours before the game, and traffic had already started, but it was good. I don't know. It was just like a very special moment, and I know the players enjoyed it too. Just getting to play in such a historic venue with all those fans, and it just reminds you of those special national team games or like European matches. Some of the foreigner players that are used to, living in places where you get that kind of atmosphere every single weekend, and now seeing it in MLS, I think it's very special, and it shows just how much the sport has grown and how much it means also to the city of LA.
It does. And just to be official, 82,000.
110.
I didn't.
82,110.
Why don't you get a tattoo of it on your arm? 82,110.
New MLS attendance record.
Yeah, it was, with all this messy fanfare, it just went to show that LA is still where it's at. I feel it's the epicenter of this league. LAFC supporters, I know you look at the standard you raised in the supporter culture, but you lifted the Galaxy. The Galaxy filled that place too because of your handiwork, because you raised the bar, and I think that's a big part of it. I love it because I want it a high. I want LAFC to obviously win as many MLS Cups, but what makes it special week to week is if the Galaxy aren't as bad as they have been, and we'll talk about it a little bit about that intensity in one of my takeaways. Also, by the way, just a reminder, talk to Kellen Acosta, it was his first ever Rose Bowl game. That had to be. I mean, obviously he didn't like the result, but you remember that. You remember that being in that building. And to your point about all these great games, it's USC, UCLA. The 94 World Cup was referenced. We're not comparing it to these things, but it's a very LA. It's like a badge of honor to see a game at the Rose Bowl and on a beautiful day under the mountains there. You don't forget that.
Beautiful weather.
It was
mid-July.
We haven't had great weather, but now we had good weather.
Yes, and I had my doubts before when they rescheduled the game. July 4th, yes, it's a holiday, but you don't know how many people are actually going to be here, are going to show up. Maybe they have other plans. Maybe they're leaving town. So I was pleased to see how many fans showed up. They packed the stadium when they announced the day before that it was going to be a sellout. It just shows how much people are into it. And it ended up being just the perfect setting on the 4th of July to finish it off with fireworks.
Were you there for the fireworks? Because I would have done the little sneaky. I actually would have been on the clock. I would have to wait for everything.
I wanted to, but I was working. That's the thing.
Never mind.
So I didn't get to see the fireworks. I was in the press conferences or doing all the post-game stuff. So I could hear the fireworks. I could not see the fireworks. So my 4th of July was a little bit different because I did not get to see fireworks.
Okay. LA, when it comes to fireworks, is the best. I'm sure you've got to see some or hear some on the way home.
Definitely hear
People
some by my house. And then up until, 3 a.m., I'm people, stop already.
My favorite day, and I didn't get to do it this year, is when you turn on the news and they go, today on 4th of July, I'm just doing my local news. All due respect, I love our local news. I watch it more than anything else, and it's a reminder why local news is so important. Here in LA, they do that aerial shot. This is the aerial shot there in the San Fernando Valley. Look at those fire, and it's every year you see that shot.
There's this video on Instagram. It's this reel going around, a very cool video where at some point it just shows all of LA and all of the fireworks just going off at the same time. It was pretty cool video. Look it up.
We've talked about the Rose Bowl. We're not trying to avoid what happened here, a disappointing result. 30th game of the season. And I know we've talked about the fatigue, but it's 30 games for LAFC here in July, and that's usually something that should be in a total you hit in September. Remember, there's 34 regular season games.
Yes.
It's 34 regular season games, so that everything's extra. So you just do it in your math with the League's Cup, which we'll talk about a little bit too, looming. We know that's out there. They were stretched without Aaron Long, Jesus Murillo. Defensively, Sergi Palencia, Chiqui Palacios is suspended. A couple guys coming back, but as Steve touched on after the game, they're trying to get minutes. We're not building in anything. LAFC needs to get results. They have 3 games before a break for the League's Cup. They need to do it. Remember, they had the 2 wins, and now this is what's crazy, Katia. They had the 2 wins, and now they've had 3 losses. And that victory over Seattle felt like it was a week ago. It was a little more than that, but it shows that compact nature. We could talk about it, but there's some things here about LAFC that they've got to find ways to execute. They've got to find ways to score goals. Let's start with the first half because Steve Cherundolo said it too. It was much better in the second half, some adjustments made, but they trailed there early, and From what I saw, it looked like they could have been down even an additional goal.
Yes, they're not being sharp and as clean on both boxes, and they've touched on this in the past few games and that streak of 3 losses that they've had, where you're not getting the goals, and then you find yourself also making little mistakes. Now you're down a goal, and you have to chase the game, and it's like this story that we're seeing over and over again, that now you're chasing the game, and it makes it difficult because it just changes the entire thing. And I agree.
And all 3 losses they've been chasing. They chased, yeah.
And in that first half, you could see it. They could have even like scored before the Galaxy, and then like kudos to both keepers that had important saves in those like initial minutes of the game. But at the end of the day, you're not being sharp. You're not getting those goals. And then what happens? The opposition gets that goal, and then here's the same tape over and over again, where it's difficult. The players are fatigued, and I know we've touched on this over and over again, but then mentally it also weighs on you when then again you're down, you have to chase the result, and it just modifies the plan that you had going in, the talk, everything that was said before.
Every game since Leagues Cup, the second leg, this is really the benchmark where things have, where LAFC started to struggle. I think every game you look at, whoever scored first got the results. Just the 5 games since LAFC scored the goal first, they won. Vancouver, Dallas, and now the LA Galaxy score first, and that it's almost like if we list any key to the match, the most obvious one is don't fall behind. If you take the lead, you're going to be in good shape.
I have a stat right here.
Bring it on. What do you got?
6 times in the last 7 games that LAFC has conceded first, it lost 4 of the previous 6.
Okay, that's very telling. Let's have our takeaways, because my takeaway kind of touches on that. And what's what you see, and it's hard to ask again, I'm not going to keep bearing on it with the fatigue, is the Galaxy, and we've seen this so many times in these games, you know what's going to happen. It's a different Galaxy team. This is a Galaxy team that's been at or near the foot of the Western Conference all season. That intensity, that concentration on these moments, that they raise it. If the Galaxy want to be good this season, they're going to have to do that with some regularity. But they knew that, and LAFC, to me, in that first half, it wasn't quite there. Those 50-50s, the intensity, it's hard to get to that point, especially when you have a schedule like that. But LAFC showed more of that in the second half, made the adjustments, were able to pull level. And it's almost a thing where you can bottle it to 90 minutes. Can you bottle that, which is a big ask, but if you can bottle that 90 minutes, you could do well. And again, I know if I asked Steve Cherundolo, you have 3 games, he's going to say 1 game at a time, as they should. We should look at it 1 game at a time. But for argument's sake, these 3 games, if they can find that intensity and just to get them over, like we all do when we see our vacation or we know the end of the school year, right? I got 2 weeks, summer starts.
Push through.
You got to push through and hit that tape. To me, that's something that if it's hard to say you could have that intensity because the Galaxy were dialed in, but that would have been something that I think LAFC would have served well if they were able to muster it.
Yes, my takeaway would be those adjustments in the second half where the team looked better, more settled, looked better also in set pieces, and that's how they got the equalizer, the header off of Ilya Sanchez. So I think showing that improvement would be my takeaway, and you try, like you said, to bottle that and then now take it for a quick turnaround again on Saturday at home against San Jose.
Did they have enough? They had enough. Because the one thing people say, look, we have chances. They need to convert them. And that still applied. I would be worried if all of a sudden we didn't really have a lot of chances, but they did. They did have chances. They had more in the second half. They did have them in the first half. Our crack researcher, Julie, said, say like Julie or Yuli?
Uli.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up, Yuli. You better believe.
Uli.
Did they get enough chances? I thought so.
Oh, they definitely got more chances than the Galaxy. If you look at the stats and a little bit more possession, more shots on target, so the chances were there. That the thing is what we were talking about before, just being better with the finishing and that final touch. And we were talking about this also off camera, that you see the 3 up front, Mahala being its last game, but of course we'll talk about that. But Carlos Vela, Denny Bouanga, Mahala, they know how to play like all the 3 positions, and then they like switch and then try to move. And I don't know also how much that is hurting them right now when it comes to communication, because then we would see like Carlos in the middle, but then he would switch, and then we would see Denis on the right, then on the left. And then at some moments I feel that when it comes to just being aware of who's doing which run, how to communicate, there are certain elements there that might be hurting what we're seeing with the finishing.
Yeah, Denis Bouanga did get, was it the Vancouver? Oh, it was one of the games where he scored a goal, but he hasn't really been scoring a lot.
Against Vancouver, both Denis and Carlos scored.
So those are the guys. If Denis not scoring all the goals, you need other guys to do it. So these last couple games, it hasn't happened. You like to see that from Mahala too, but whatever it is, whether it's Denis shouldering them, and he's still one of the top goal scorers in the league. I think 2 goals off the lead of Hani Mukhtar, so he's still there. And Vela's got a nice total. It's like 6 goals. It's a decent total for your second top scorer. You usually don't have 11 and 6. Maybe it is other guys need to take the burden off of them. Obviously, defenses are playing Denis a little differently because they know where it's going to be. But that the movement in the front 3 is key. And now we'll talk about Mahala in a moment. There's going to be someone different there in the San Jose game and moving forward. But those combinations of where they find goals is paramount. And that is going to be the whether they head to that Leagues Cup mini break in the first or second place on the West, or maybe they dip a little further back.
They need more help from the midfielders, of course, but we have to take into consideration that Tillman and Kellyn went back to the lineup. They're still not at that 100% like fitness level, so it's just like working them back in. We saw Bogusz in the second half, so it's just like trying to figure. Also, Cifuentes came in the second half, so it's just trying to figure out that too, get that communication, that flow going, and then so they can help the attackers as well and score some goals. So
it's obviously disappointing, especially losing the Galaxy. I want to mention because I saw some people on social media where Ilya held his shirt out and pointed to the shirt. It was a wonderful moment. It's a wonderful moment to be there for the Rose Bowl. Something you will tell your grandchildren because it's a very special place, especially for Los Angelinos. This is a very difficult stretch. So these 3 big games, 2 of them are at home. We'll preview them here in a minute. Before we get to that, we've touched on him a few times. Mahala Opoku. Mahala traded to Montreal. And, we saw Mahala a little bit. This is something, it's a Bryce Duke, former LAFC player, went to Inter Miami. He's now there. So in MLS, when you are able to make a trade for this, it opens the door for a few things. For a Mahala Opoku to be, $1.7 million for allocation money, that might be a small number in a few years, the way the league is going, or maybe there won't be allocation money in the future. We don't know. But that is a big total, and that helps LAFC get flexible here in this marketplace. So remember when Walker Zimmerman was $1 million of allocation money? That was like an offer you can't refuse. So when anything over $1 million is kind of in that position where you want to do it. So Montreal wanted him. He's going to be able to get playing time, and it's also going to allow him to get on a pathway to make more money as a professional. So it is a good situation. I know LAFC fans will now wonder how it looks, and we can kind of talk about that. But this isn't a jettison of a player. This is Montreal based, and I could say this based on the price tag. They said, we want him, and to spend that allocation money means they're going to play him in a prominent role.
Yeah, it's a win-win situation where the player gets more money, more playing minutes. It's a good opportunity for him, and then we've seen how much he's grown with LAFC and how important he was. But now it's a good opportunity for him, and it's a good opportunity for the club because at the end of the day, like you mentioned, the business side of things, like they're getting good money for that. They're also getting an international roster spot. I mean, it's a separate transaction, but they're getting that spot. And then it just tells you that
intention, yeah.
Yes, it shows intention. And then we know that John Thornton might be like already working on something, and with the transfer window coming up.
The championship year of 2022. Prior to that, remember, LAFC got a lot of allocation money with trades, going back to Walker Zimmerman, Corey Baird, Mark Anthony, all these guys where they built it up, and then we were wondering what they were going to do with it. And that's what I'm saying. It could happen this window. It could happen another window. LAFC have been pretty explicit about, we will spend this on our terms. We are looking for players. We don't want someone to come and offer us a player and say, hey, we are being proactive. These are Steve Cherundolo's words, as he shared. You've probably heard before, not being reactive. But when they got that allocation money, that turned out to be Maxime Crépeau, Ilie Sanchez, Kellen Acosta. Was leagues within. So within allocation money, it tells you they're going to look within Major League Soccer for help. I know there's that DP out there. It could get filled. I don't know. I mean, we'll start, if that happens, it'll happen. But LAFC aren't going to rush into it just because they feel there's a need. But with this allocation money where they do it now, they can get some guys. So I don't know who they are, but think about maybe getting depth in midfielders, a fullback or something where you can do that within MLS. That's what the allocation money could do it. So maybe it's 2 or 3 guys.
Yeah, definitely. And like the guys you mentioned, they've been so integral to what LAFC has done and to winning that championship and to seeing what we've seen out of the group in the past year, that it's a good sign of what's to come for LAFC, looking to have more depth, because you always think, oh, this is a very deep team. They have so many players. But if you really look at it right now, especially with the ones that are missing, that's when you realize that depth is like not fully there in like every single position. So it's like definitely needed. And I think it's a good move in a right direction.
Yeah. Again, we'll find out when you find out. We're not here to break stories. We're here to see it all along. But LAFC is a deeper team out of all of the clubs in MLS. It's just been stretched so much. In the second half of the season, there will be midweek games, but there won't be so many international breaks. There's one in September, but it'll allow LAFC. But this was kind of what they did in 2022. They were deep in every position. I think we talked about it. They have 3 or 4 fullbacks. They have 5 midfielders they can rotate, and maybe that's something that they can get to. I should have started this, and we saw Mahala earlier, and it was tough. It was because Mahala came here wet behind the ears, 18 years old, from Florida via Ghana. And, we were all around here, and we saw him grow up, and we all felt like uncles and aunts a little bit. See, it's a tough business, but you get a little emotional when you see that.
I know, just the goodbye part is not fun. So just seeing him, seeing him say goodbye to everybody. And like he's happy with what's coming, but at the same time, there's a nostalgic part, of course, of that process of just closing one chapter, opening a new one, and at least, we got to say goodbye to him too today.
Yes, we did. So that was very special to be able to part ways. So the window's open. We'll see what LAFC does. I don't know. I don't want to know. I'm just saying I think there might be a player or two. I don't think they fill the DP, but who knows? Remember last year, we didn't know how exciting things happened. This is a club with
my wish list, center forward.
This is an ambitious club, and they're playing for trophies. Real quickly, San Jose is on Saturday. It's the 3rd meeting. So just like the Galaxy, it's the 3rd meeting versus the Earthquakes. Earthquakes won the first game. Remember, it was the first loss for LAFC. That was up at Levi Stadium. And then a couple weeks later, they played at BMO Stadium, LAFC getting the penalty from Carlos Vela. So this is a rubber game. San Jose are missing Cade Cowles with the U.S. team, much like Aaron Long. USA play on Sunday. If they lose, Aaron and Cade Cowles come back sooner. If not, it's probably going to be another week. And Jackson Yule's also missing for them. But at home, this is a big spot. This is a very winnable game. When I looked at the Galaxy game, I said that could be a defeat just of the circumstances of the Galaxy. I wasn't feeling super confident. This is a game where I think LAFC could really put the hammer down. They have St. Louis a following Wednesday, so another midweek game, and then they're at Minnesota, and then they can get ready for Leagues Cup. So you can look at those 3 games, but regardless of what happens, St. Louis, who are first place in the West, so that's going to be a big game league-wide, and Minnesota, it's a tough place to play. That San Jose one, I mean, if you can get a win there, that could sort out, and I think they should are expected to get a win and probably will.
Yes, it's an important game because after the rivalry loss, you're going to be at home. You want to start building that confidence back in the group before that break. So those 3 games that you have left are very important, starting with the one against San Jose on Saturday. And I do believe they do have a really good chance to get a win. I was watching over the weekend that game that San Jose had against the Galaxy, and the intensity was there. Like you mentioned, they're missing key players. But I think when it comes to a matchup against LAFC, they should be able to put it away.
Yeah, Christian Espinosa did score a goal in that game. It was 2-2. They didn't have to play on Tuesday. I know that sounds like a broken record, but that's kind of what we went through with this team, which is almost there's light at the end of the tunnel, but they want to finish well, and they want to start doing better at home. Remember losses to Vancouver and Houston. They want to make BMO Stadium a fortress. How did that go for you? That was pretty... We covered a lot of ground.
We covered a lot of ground.
You got some more stats? You're looking at
I have another stat because when we talk about how many games LAFC has had, I'm sorry that we're talking about it over and over again, but it's a reality. They're playing for the 9th time in 35 days. they were playing
It's
for
like
the
the
ninth.
game-
Yeah, the ninth time
So
in
3.5.
35 days against the Galaxy. So now
much
it's
football.
going to
Too much
be
football.
the 10th game
In
in
38
38
9.
days. Yes.
Insanity.
Yeah.
Look, this is something the league has to look at because they got to protect their top teams. It's not an isolated incident. What's happening at LAFC? Sounders won CCL. Same thing happened. Toronto FC lost in the final. They didn't make the playoffs back in 2018. Just talk amongst yourselves and we'll see it. Katia Castorena, Max Preto's Inside LAFC podcast. We will be back with our special guest, Kellen Acosta, talk about playing at the Rose Bowl and how LAFC gets back on the rails for these next 3 games. Welcome back Inside LAFC podcast, joined now by Kellen Acosta. And Kellen, I got to ask you, because when we were here before the game on Monday, I thought you'd played at the Rose Bowl before. You'd never played at the Rose Bowl. So how was the first time?
Nah.
Notwithstanding the result, but just being there.
Yeah,
in that
no,
building.
it's cool. I mean, it's definitely historic. Kind of just taking it all in. I went out there pre-warm-up just to kind of just see and survey the stadium, get a feel for it. I mean, it's beautiful. It's massive. I've seen it on TV. I think, the last game that I really remember watching as a kid was not a soccer game. It was an American football game. It was University of Texas.
Oh, Vince Young.
Yeah, versus USC. I'm a big UT fan, so I
Fight on.
Texas,
yeah.
right?
So I was watching Vince Young versus Reggie Bush. I think Matt Leinart was a QB.
Yes.
Yeah. So that
One
was
of the best college football games ever, really.
Yeah, I just remember watching that just at home. I stayed up to watch it. It was quite the game. Quite the game.
He knew about the mystique of the Rose Bowl.
He knew about that. But Kellen, just seeing the impact of this rivalry, not just for LA, but what it means now to MLS and just being a part of it, seeing how many fans were out there, just how special was it?
No, it was massive, I think. I think it's a testament to the sport, how much it's grown, testament to LA just adopting it and just embracing it as a whole. And just to see what 82 and some change there
82.
was
110.
She has a
82,110.
She's getting
Yeah,
a
no, I
tattoo of
think
the attendance.
as she should. No, that's amazing.
With
It's
the
amazing.
ropes.
It shows where the sport is going. And I know definitely very special to see all those fans opposing and our own to be there. I think that was really just a cool experience and cool game to be a part of.
Usually have a week or maybe more to build up to these games. You had a whole offseason to build up to the one that was originally scheduled. With all the games you're going on, I mean, did that take away from the rivalry? Because to me, watching it as a supporter or as a fan, it kind of did. But when the game started, I was like, "Oh, we're here," and then you see that setting as well. I mean, how did managing these rivalry games, especially with so many other games around it?
Yeah, no, it's definitely tough. I mean, it's definitely a game with a lot of emotions, high emotional game. And, for our standpoint, yeah, I mean, it was tough. You go from, playing, a few days before to playing in a game of this magnitude. I know for our standpoint, we love what we do. But, I mean, in a rivalry game, it's a game that's almost like a must-win game, especially playing against your rivals, about bragging rights, playing for pride. And obviously, unfortunately, we weren't able to get the result. But, it's a game that we always get up for. And, I'm sure we'll be seeing each other down the road whenever that is.
One more game at BMO. You could
I
play
think
him
so.
at Leagues Cup. You could play him in the playoffs.
There's all these what ifs. Yeah, coming soon. Coming soon.
Coming soon, more games. Going into what happened on the field, Steve talked about how he liked the improvement that he saw in the second half, and just what's been the struggle when it comes to just sharpness on both boxes.
Yeah, I think that's been the story of our last some games is, not being clinical, in the offensive box, and then defensively, not being as clean and concentrated in those moments. And in those moments is where you'll win games. And for our standpoint, we need to fine-tune those two things, and that'll help us get back on track and get the results that we want.
There's you get a chance to get right at it Saturday against San Jose, but I know, and I probably shouldn't ask the question this way, but with some light at the end of the tunnel, where you have 3 games, and then you can just take a breath because we could see it. This has been 30 games in early July that you guys have played.
Yeah.
How do you manage this, or how do you obviously approaching this with wanting to get a good taste in your mouth before you have a little bit of a break, where you can kind of maybe click your fingers a little bit, get ready for Leagues Cup, get ready for the second.
No, it's definitely been grueling. I mean, I think for our standpoint, we've had a lot of games, a lot of travel. We've had guys coming in and out of the national team, some injuries. And like I said, there's, a few games left to this break. For our standpoint, is finishing off these 3 games strong, taking each game for what it is, game by game. And, we got to flesh out, this game that happened a couple of days ago. And, all our focus on San Jose, and we want to get back on track, get a positive result, and hopefully continue to build on that. And we're looking from San Jose to St. Louis and St. Louis to Minnesota, and then we can breathe.
You have thought about the 3 game. Yeah, you see it.
Yeah, I mean, it's there. It's there. It's one of those things where, like you said, we've played almost 30 games now.
No,
like,
30?
okay, when can we just have that bit of just relaxation in a sense?
What has worked for you? I mean, because this is a situation where it's not supposed to go well, but you guys can't get full training. Obviously, can't really decompress too much. What are some things that you've kind of leaned into mentally, physically, to help you in such a grueling stretch?
It's just finding ways to reset. Whether it's just hanging out with family, maybe that's just doing absolutely nothing. Maybe
Sounds
just
good.
soaking up the sun that we have here in LA, video games, and just having short-term memory in a sense. Especially when these games, haven't gone our way. It's about putting that behind us and moving forward. And, from my standpoint, I can't speak upon the team, but I enjoyed playing. I'd rather be, playing a game than being here on the practice field. So, for me, I mean, I'm looking ahead to the next game, and hopefully, this weekend we can get back on track and get an important win.
Well, you're coming back from an injury yourself, and we've been talking about it here on the podcast. Like, the group is fatigued. It's been a lot with what you were just talking about, travel, not training properly, all those games. But what are you seeing from the guys also in the locker room? Like, what are those conversations like, so that people can understand just how much it's difficult sometimes with all of that, like physically and mentally?
Yeah, it's been kind of just like an unspoken thing. Like, we all know that we're all fatigued, and we all know that it's been challenging. But we kind of just look each other in the eyes and be like, let's just roll up our sleeves and get it done. Injuries are part of the game. It's been tough. I mean, especially for me. I'm a guy that, I've been pretty healthy most of my career. So, being sidelined, definitely it sucked. I hated watching, my teammates go out there and battling and, being helpless in a sense, not being able to go out there and help them out in these stressful times and hard times. But, yeah, I mean, they're guys that I always rely on, and I'm happy just to be back there, just to be able to battle. And for our standpoint, we enjoy what we do. And so, yeah, it's about just buckling up and being ready for what's to come.
I imagine it's got to be tough when they're kind of stretched and you want to get out and help, and you want to kind of get in there and say, hey, what can I do? Where can I get a few minutes here and there?
No, definitely. I mean, yeah, especially when you see we're stretched a little thin. And I'm inside, maybe getting a massage. People think I'm on vacation. I'm like, no, I'm really trying. I'm like, yeah, I feel a bit of guiltiness on my end, but I'm trying to be out there and helping them. But no, they've done a tremendous job this year, and like I said, I mean, it's been a tough stretch, but this isn't the end. We still have a lot of games to go, and Saturday is an opportunity for us to get back onto our ways.
We should probably talk about Mahala, your what do we call him? Your nephew.
My son.
Your son. It's the business, right? Montreal made a big offer. We talked about it a little bit, and they have big plans for Mahala, which we've all seen grow here. So we all have a connection. You certainly a little bit more, just to see him, and for you to be able to put some wisdom in him along the way. What are some of the things that will stick with you?
Nah, he's just a special guy. I mean, as everyone's gotten to know him, he's a guy that lights up a room, always smiling, always joyful. A guy that's, obviously I didn't see him in his beginning years here, but I've just, in the time that I have been here, he's grown a lot on and off the field. And so to see his, his steady progression of being, this little boy, he likes to say, to a bigger boy. No, it's been great to just getting to know him, on a personal level and on the field, what he's able to do and accomplish and contribute to the team. But, that's the nature of sports. And, I'm excited for him, happy for him for his new journey, and wishing him well, but obviously not against us. So. But yeah, it's a sad day to lose a brother. But like I said, I'm gonna be a fan from afar. I'm always gonna keep in touch with him, and I'm gonna always wish him the best.
thinking about the upcoming games, how difficult it's going to be not having Mahala with you
Yeah,
guys.
I mean, yeah, he's
a ray of light.
Yeah, he really is. He really is. So missing him, we're gonna feel it for sure. Not only just in the locker room, but on the field. But like I said, I mean, it's the nature of sports, and now it's an opportunity for someone else to step up and not be the Mahala, but be them. But we need more from everyone to get back onto the right way and the right track for us to finish these last 3 games strong.
LAFC and Montreal don't play each other that often. I don't think they play this season, but they will at some point. Maybe the next time you see them, they'll have a beard, talk like this. Hey, Kellyn, what's going on? I'm a man now.
Right.
He won't be the son
man
anymore.
Of the house. Yeah, I'll be nervous if he gets like a growth spurt. He's like 6'3". I'm like, oh, all right.
Can you imagine?
Let me keep my voice down when I'm around him.
Obviously, you've going through that process of getting traded as well, and it's brought you here, and so good things come of that. Hopefully, certainly good things come for Mahala. And I hope you get to enjoy the summer here a little bit. But with this big game here, San Jose, first things first. And the good news from what I hear from you is that you get to train a little bit less and just play games.
Which is so much better.
The sweet spot. Kellen Acosta joining us here on Inside LAFC, the podcast. Katia Castorena.
Yes.
I've been calling her Castorena for the Castorena.
Nailed it.
So, good.
Practice
Joining us
makes
here.
perfect.
And we appreciate you. Rate, review, download, subscribe, tell a friend. We'll be back again next week to recap San Jose. Get ready for that final week before Leagues Cup. Thanks for tuning in.